get so focused on revenue, and they get so focused on scaling that they become obsessed with it and go, hey, I'd rather hit $5 million and have no money than hit 3.5 and have 20%.
Absolutely. Profit is more than money in the bank. Money in the bank is nice, but profit is more than money in the bank. It's options, it's time, it's the cushion that allows you to recover from mistakes. And we all make mistakes, let's be honest. You're scaling losses instead of scaling profit. And today we're going to show you how to fix the equation.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Tulsa, Todd, Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
All right, welcome to the $100 Million Podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Alan. Alan, how you doing?
I'm great, Todd. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, guys, we're doing something a little different today. Today, we're going to be doing a 4-part series where Alan and I are going to step away from our normal interviewing of guests, and we actually want to bring 4 very important lessons to you. We want to talk about some of the biggest challenges that we know that owners have when it comes to breaking through their revenue barriers. And Alan, today's topic is going to be a big one. We're going to talk about profit.
I love profit, Todd. My favorite subject.
And I know it's something that you're really good at too. So
yeah, we've done well.
You've done very well. So, and the reason why we're going to talk about profit is that we know that a lot of owners are chasing revenue. They get so focused on revenue, and they get so focused on scaling that they become obsessed with it and go, hey, I'd rather hit $5 million and have no money than hit 3.5 and have 20%.
Absolutely.
So it's a mistake. And Alan and I are going to talk about it. And today what we're going to do is we're actually going to dive in super specific into the growth stage of 3.5 million scaling to 5. But Alan, I want to encourage anyone that is thinking to themselves, well, this episode's not for me. Because at that scale of going to 3.5 to 5 million, what we know is that those are very basic things that you should still be doing at 5 to 10 and 10 to 15 and so on.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
So that's what we're going to do today is work on that stage.
Well, you know, this $3.5 to $5 million revenue range, Todd, this is the danger zone. I see it as the danger zone because the temptation is to keep chasing revenue. You know, add trucks, add techs, add overhead, throw more ads, but the top line without profit, that's a trap.
It's totally true.
So you can hit 5 million and have less cash in the bank. Our good friend Ellen Rohr wrote a book called Where Did the Money Go, which I highly recommend. But, you know, if you have less cash in the bank at 5 million than you did at 3.5 million, that's the danger. You're scaling losses instead of scaling profit. And today we're going to show you how to fix the equation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Alan. This is a theme that we're tackling, which is profit first and top line second. And we got a great first segment, which is why chasing revenue is a trap, like Alan said. But before we jump into that segment, Alan, let's get caught up here. We haven't had you on the last 4 episodes, although we tried.
We did. We tried hard.
Because you were in Ireland seeing your family, right?
I was, Todd, and it was great. It's always great. You know, I definitely consider Texas my home, but I'm a proud Irishman, so I love to go back to my roots and see. And I get to stay in the area I grew up in. We own a house there now, and it was my grandmother's house, ironically. And, you know, lots of memories just sitting in the house and thinking about being a 4-year-old and being in that home. So it was a lot of fun. We had a great time and really enjoyed it. And, of course, enjoyed the cooler weather, for sure.
When you were in your home, did you have one of those core memories that whether it was a smell or something, it just hit you and it just like brought you back to a very specific point in time?
Yeah, you know, it's changed so much over the years, Todd, from when I was a kid growing up to the way it is today. But, you know, you see neighbors, you see friends, and I had a funny moment where I saw somebody I hadn't seen in about 30 years, and And I thought to myself, gosh, she looks old. And my wife said, well, you've aged the same as she has. I still see myself as a 25-year-old in so many ways. So, yeah, it's great to be in the area, and it's great to see old friends, old neighbors.
When you go home, are you sort of the famous guy that left and went to America and hit it big?
You wonder what they think about you, Todd, because I don't broadcast my success. Well, I suppose I do on this podcast, but I try to be the same Alan that I was when I lived there as a teenager, as an apprentice plumber, with walking home from work with pipe joint compound on my pants, and you know, and they're the memories that mean a lot to you. You go back, and so I honestly don't know what they think, Todd. I did have one lady stop me and say she's been enjoying the podcast, which was really a surprise to me.
Hey, we got one Irish listener.
Yeah, we got one Irish listener, so we can call ourselves internationally famous now, Todd.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, wonderful. I'm glad you had a nice trip. It's good to have you back.
It's great to be back.
And we're happy that you're here. So, Alan, we're going to talk about why chasing revenue is a trap. And at the $3.5 million stage, like you said, this is when owners start thinking about adding more trucks, growing revenue. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. But what's interesting to me about this stage is that right about the $3 million range is where you and I started working together.
Yeah.
And I can remember right down to the specific moment when you told me that you guys had crossed over 3 million and that your goal was 6. And I don't know why I remember it, but we were at a gas station. You were telling me this number. You had to get gas. You hopped out to put gas in your tank, and I hopped out. And you're just pumping gas. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this. It's like seared in my brain. We weren't at your office.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we were going to lunch or something. And you said, Todd, if we hit 6 million this year, that'd be amazing. You guys leapfrogged it. You went from 6 to 9.
From 3 to 9. Yeah.
3 to 9.
Yeah.
Pardon me. 3 to 9. Yeah, you
Yeah.
leapfrogged it. And the reason why I bring that up is that I'm telling everyone that chasing revenue is a trap. You should be profitable. And yet you guys were able to totally leapfrog. You went way past 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
That was even before air conditioning. That was still plumbing.
Just plumbing. Yes.
Go back and think about that. While you were growing, I just want to evaluate that success. What do you think were the reasons that allowed you to take that huge leap? Like, you were hoping for a doubling, and you did a literal tripling, which is crazy, but you did it.
Yeah, I think, Todd, we were always very goal oriented. We set a goal at the start of the year. We created a budget around the goal, and then we turned our guys loose. And I think at that stage of our growth, we were really focused on the customer.
Mm-hmm.
We were really focused on taking great care of the customer. But equally as importantly, and maybe more importantly, we were very focused on taking care of the people inside the organization. And so we were taking care of customers, we were taking care of people, we were doing great work. It was just a master class in doing things the right way. As I look back on it then, I mean, I never felt, I remember somebody asking me when we were at the 3 million stage, would you ever consider doing air conditioning? And I said, when we get good at plumbing, we'll do air conditioning. Turns out we were probably pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But one big lesson I learned that year, Todd, was that I can't run a $5, $6, $7, $9 million company the way we were running a $3 million company. It takes more. And so, the rules change. If you don't adjust, you're just magnifying your mistakes. And I always tell our people, it's okay to make a mistake. Just don't make the same mistake over and over and over again. And so I think it's really important to scale your thinking as you're scaling your revenue and your profitability, and be careful with overhead, though, because overhead can eat you up.
No doubt. As you grow, it is natural that your profits are going to go down.
Of course, yeah.
We want to maintain profits. That's what we're talking about. I think it's also important to point out for anybody that's listening that, Alan's in Houston. I think it's the 3rd largest city in the nation.
Yes.
$100 million business in Houston is very supportable. If you were in a smaller town of, say, 50,000 population, going from 3.5 to 5, you might be, without adding other services, beginning to push what's possible. I mean, at 5 million in a 50,000 population, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that doesn't represent 10% of the opportunity or more.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Todd.
So, so I'll go back to the question. What was the lowest in profitability that you were at that year? And here's one of the reasons why I asked, because I remember one other thing you told me. It wasn't when we were pumping gas. I don't remember when you said it, but I remember it. In this growth period, you said that you were investing 10 to 12% in marketing, but you were investing 10 to 12% in marketing for what you expected to do,
Absolutely.
not what you are at today.
Yep.
So you were expecting to do 6 at 10%. That means you went from investing 300,000 in marketing to 600,000. And when we get to 9, it paid off. We went from a potential 10% to like 6. So I'd imagine that's a huge margin savings. But what was the lowest, if you can remember, that your profitability got as you were getting to that 3 to
As you were,
9?
to the best of my memory, Todd, and without looking back at financials, I think we were always double-digit profitability.
Always.
Always. We never got under 10%.
Mm-hmm.
The very first year in business, we were about 3 to 5% because we were pumping 25% of our revenue into marketing. But we always stayed double-digit profitability. And I think part of that was we were always priced correctly.
Yes.
Now, one of the issues we had as a smaller company was, and you brought up the population of Houston, we would take a service call anywhere in the greater Houston area, even with 3 plumbers.
So your efficiency was lower because of travel time.
Exactly. We were spending, sometimes the guys were spending half their day driving between jobs.
Yeah, right.
And so that was hard. That was when the most pressure, I think, was on our profitability, because you want your guys in the home producing. They can't do that if they have to drive to a job.
Right.
But we never thought like a small company. We never thought that this is going to be a 3 or a 5 truck company. We always thought this could be potentially a 15, 20 and beyond truck company,
Mm-hmm.
and the revenue that goes with that and the profitability that goes with that. So we always, we knew we had to sacrifice a little bit at the start in terms of efficiency if we wanted to be the company that was going to continue to scale.
Got it. So a lot of wisdom there. And one of the big takeaways that I think that anyone that's listening, that's talking about growing, is that no matter what you do, in the beginning he said 3 to 5%, but that's in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've got a little traction, setting a target, setting a revenue goal, but more critically, setting a profitability goal. And the interesting thing about profitability is that it's actually not that hard to achieve it if you are willing and have the intestinal fortitude to make hard decisions. And a lot of those hard decisions are built around overhead.
I think profitability is not hard to achieve, Todd, if you're priced correctly and if you don't take your hands off the wheel. So many owners, I remember back in our Plumber Success International days,
Oh my God.
you'd go to the summit.
I'm not oh my God into Plumber Success, but I'm oh my God into what I think you're going to say.
And you'd meet guys and they tell you, hey, I'm only working 2 days a week.
This is it.
I don't hardly go in the office. I go in the office and then I go to the gym and I come back, and then you'd see them a year later and their business is in serious trouble.
This is it.
We never took our hands off the wheel.
Right.
We really never did. I mean, I was in that office every day, all day, working. I was delivering water here. Whatever it took in the early days, I did. But we never took our hands off the wheel or our eyes off the business, because that, to me, is a recipe for disaster. And if you take your eye off the business, you're taking your eye off the profitability.
I was speaking to a husband and wife team yesterday. Tremendous people, like really core solid humans. But they have been infiltrated, not the wife, but the husband's been a little bit infiltrated. He knows this with what social media has said.
Mm-hmm.
But PSI was doing it back in the day because that's the thing you sell. I'm going to sell you sitting on a beach, looking at your numbers once a day. We've all heard that. He's about this range that we're talking about, and he wants to scale. And he had made a statement like, I just want to get out of the way and let other people do these things so that I can go do other stuff and not be in the business every day. And I'm going, hang on. You're not there.
Yeah.
You're
absolutely.
definitely not there.
Yeah.
that is a dream that you've been sold. It's like, no, 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 no. You need to be there every freaking day because what you're imagining is putting someone in play and paying them a salary and they're going to care about as much. That is not going to happen. That thing's not going to work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he accepted it. But I think it's important for those that are listening to realize that there is a false narrative that's at play, and there's books that are making it worse, where they're essentially saying that as a business owner, your number one thing is to launch the business and then get out of the way. And that doesn't mean get out of the way of the people that are doing the work. Yes, get out of their way, support them, help them. But you can't abdicate your position and be like, oh, this company's going to grow. Because it's not. It's just flipping hard work.
I can think of a statement, the Dave Ramsey statement, that I'll alter a little bit, Todd. Dave Ramsey says, live like no one else, so later you can live like no one else.
That's right.
I would alter that to work like no one else, so later you can work like no one else, right? So
absolutely
work really hard to build a company that can go on autopilot eventually with the right leadership, right? But it doesn't work in the early days. So many people, and I know you know them, Todd, and I know that you've met people that took their eye off the business and suffered financial losses because of it, or in some cases lost the business because of it, right?
Absolutely.
Work is a four-letter word. You've got to go out and work hard at it in the early years. And in this $3.5 to $5 million stage, it's absolutely critical that you pay attention to the business.
Alan, if I were in one of those small markets and I got my business to 5 million and I was achieving a 25% profitability, and you could do that. If you get to 5 million and go, okay, I'm going to maintain and just grow organically, you can make a 25% profitability on a company. You go, okay, what if I took off 5% of that? That's 250,000, and actually go find a real top tier person. At that point, you probably could go, hey, I'm okay with 20%. If you're 20%, hey, I'm okay with 5%. I'm going to pay someone a great six-figure salary, and I'm going to hold them accountable. I'm still having to go to work, but can you get a $5 million business and operate it at 20 and 15% profitability and be mostly checked out? I think the answer is yes, if you don't intend to keep growing it aggressively, or if you don't want to invest into that person and actually make them a partner. And at that point, it's like, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if someone's making 750,000 a year and they're happy, it's like, awesome. Pay someone else a bunch of big bucks and do that. But you still can't come out of it altogether. There still has to be some level of control.
When we say profit first, Todd, let's put numbers to it.
Okay.
At this stage, your net profit target should be 15 to 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Service gross margin, 65% or higher.
Yep.
Now, for example, drain cleaning, there's really no material in drain cleaning. You could have a 70, 75% margin in drain cleaning.
Right.
Install gross margin, 45 to 55%.
Mm-hmm.
They're the benchmarks. And here's the filter. Every major decision has to pass a profit test.
Right.
You want to buy a van, hire a manager, launch a campaign, ask, will this raise margins or lower them? That's one question will save you a lot of pain.
A lot of pain. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think this is what we've been talking about, right, Alan? This is where owners get stuck. And I think they get stuck because a lot of them, they just don't know how to forecast.
Absolutely.
They don't know if they invest in this person or if they invest in this marketing, if that short-term dip is going to hold out for long-term gains. And I think in most cases, if they have made actually good investments, it is going to result in long-term gains. But I think what a lot of people do, Alan, is they get fearful and they stop just before momentum takes place.
Correct.
And then it's just wasted money.
And this is why I always tell people, Todd, profit is more than money in the bank. Money in the bank's nice, but profit is more than money in the bank. It's options, it's time, it's the cushion that allows you to recover from mistakes. And we all make mistakes, let's be honest. Because mistakes, they're guaranteed to happen. Absolutely guaranteed to happen.
You talk about time. Right now, where Service Excellence is, we are a consulting-based business, so we run a really good profit margin. And in the last year and a half, I've made big investments in overhead. So profit goes down,
Hmm.
right? Made big investment in overhead, profit goes down. We've got this weird little bit of market instability where lead cost is high. So it's got our audience a little nervous. So no big deal, which basically means we're sort of flat. But because of profits and because of retained earnings, there is such a bed of options, right? I've got
Exactly.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got an abundant amount of time that I look at this moment and go, cool, no big deal. We are rebuilding internal systems and creating new exciting options for clients that when we roll them out, they're going to future build where we're going and take us to the next level. And I think that that option is 100% available for every business owner, whether they're plumbing, electrical, or air conditioning, if they put some in reserves. But what I see most people do is they don't, they spend it.
Hmm.
Whether it's on personal items or whether they have to spend it because it's on debt, they're not making the profits, one, and then they're not saving any of it too. And that just is such a scary thing. And it leads people to questioning their vision when they're faced with a scenario of can I make payroll? It's really hard to be an amazing leader when you've got people sitting around going, am I going to get a paycheck this week?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
One thing I know about you, Todd, is that before you made those investments in the last year or two, you understood the hit of your profitability was going to take by making them.
yes.
Right now, we all know in most cases it's a few percent more than we probably forecast, but at least you knew what was going to happen and you knew it was a temporary thing. And just one thing you said there about people taking the profit and spending it, I think it's a great way to run a business is to pay yourself a salary and then take a look at the end of the year and see, do you want to take a distribution or do you want to leave it in the business?
Right.
I've always treated the business account like the business account.
Mm-hmm.
And my personal account is my personal account. Never did the two mix because I think that's a recipe for disaster as well, Todd.
It really
You know?
is. And we're talking future casting and future planning. But one of the things that happens if you're a business owner and you're paying yourself a nice salary, and you should, what kind of salary? Essentially, the salary of a GM that you'd have to pay someone else.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the answer.
Mhm.
It's going to go up as you get bigger, but you need to pay yourself equivalent to what the market would be. Otherwise, your profits are inflated anyway. They're not real. So you pay yourself a decent salary, and then you are retaining earnings. You do that for a couple years. You sacrifice, and you get to a place to where you go, hey, I have X number of dollars saved up. Maybe you've got $1 million saved up that's in operating cash. And maybe you keep doing this for a number of years. And now you've got 3 or 4 or 5 million or 10. I mean, that's a lot, but
Mhm.
call it 2 or 3 million you've got put over in investments. And if we look at like the last 3 years of investments, the way that they've been returning, if you had 3 million in 3 years ago, where they've been growing somewhere between 15 and 20%, you might have made more money on your investments than your business at this size.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I know that I'm talking serious future casting, but when you take a direction towards profits and you go, okay, well, I'm going to do that. There's a weird thing that happens after doing this for 5 or 10 years, which is all of a sudden you have your return on investments, and then you have your profitability, and then you have your cash in bank. And you end up going, wow, I'm almost in a position that I'm in a no risk position for growth. If I come over here and just look at this cash and go, this is my dry capital, as I like to say in private equity, how can I wisely invest this for returns? And the sky almost becomes the limit.
Absolutely. And I think, Todd, you always have to plan for that day when things are not maybe going so well. Like in Houston, a typical example was in the early days, we were shut down for over a week because of a hurricane. So that was zero money coming in for over a week, but the expenses kept going. So, events like that, okay, being shut down for a week is not the end of the world, but if you're not retaining earnings and you're not managing the business wisely, a couple of those could put you under,
Big time.
And so I think it's really important to be financially prudent
Yeah.
as you grow.
Well, I know not everyone is necessarily in that position yet. And this is what I would say, listener, especially if you're a person that's sitting here not even doing a million and you're struggling and you're thinking to yourself, I don't even, Todd, you're talking about putting money in the bank that will make me money. I'm just trying to make payroll. Here's the thing, we're going to move into the levers that you can pull today that's going to start taking you from your low profit percentage that you're at to 18, 20 plus. So keep listening because Al and I are about to lay on some real practical things that you need that's going to
Absolutely.
make the difference in your business.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're thinking to yourself, I have very low profitability, don't worry. We're going to show you what to do here. And Alan, I'm going to kick it right off to you because you've already said this, but it's so critical. The first lever is pricing discipline. And to me, pricing discipline means, hey, make sure you're priced right
Absolutely.
and stop discounting. It's pretty simple. And Alan, we've already given them really the basis of the secret sauce where we said, hey, gross margin, 65, higher, 45 to 55. But I bet there's some people out there that may be going, what comes before gross margin? In other words, how do I get there? Like what's cost of goods sold? So Alan, do you mind just hitting them with what cost of goods sold is so that they can understand how they get gross margin?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to control your overhead, Todd. That's the key. All these expenses that go into making a sale or servicing the customer, somebody's got to pay for those. And the answer is customer pays for all those expenses. Now, you touched on pricing discipline. You calculate all that into your selling price. The problem is our technicians in the field don't always sell for the full selling price, as you know.
That's right.
And it took me a while to realize that, there has to be skin in the game for the technician also. So in other words, if the technician is not delivering the margin you require on the job, he should not get the full compensation for that job. So there has to be something built into your system that penalizes discounting, because just telling the guys to not discount doesn't work.
It's not enough.
And sometimes there's a decision to be made. Am I willing to discount this job and take a smaller margin on it to get the work? And sometimes that's okay. I think that's absolutely fine at times, as long as you know what margin you're going to get from that job, and you make the decision you're okay with that.
And so when you guys would get to where you were making those decisions, people would call it call by call management now. But in essence, a technician would call and explain the scenario to their direct service manager. He already knows where we are in terms of budget or not, and he or she is making the call there. Like, yeah, let's do it for this.
Yeah.
Now, when that call is made, is there a little back and forth negotiation? Does the technician go, hey, Alan, I know we're not going to hit 65% margin on this. It's going to be like 57%. But look, here's the gig. It's also a $30,000 job. So does he ever ask for like, hey, can I get the full commission in this scenario? How does that go?
I mean, yeah, look, they're salespeople, Todd, so they're going to sell you on why they should. But listen, here's the way the conversation goes, especially at 3.5 to 5 million. I was the service manager, right?
Yeah.
So I was the guy they were calling. And the word margin wouldn't come into his vocabulary at that stage of the game. It would just be, hey, this job in the book is showing 12,000. I know I can get it for 10. Can I sell it for 10? And I would do a quick calculation on the margin and go, yes, it's okay. Now, our good friend Paul Kelly talks about yield management, right? So it's okay to take some jobs at 48% because some jobs are going to come in at 60, right? And so like when you're at that $3.5 to $5 million range, you are sitting holding the wheel. You can absolutely go, yes, I know that because John has a job, we're going to get 62% on. I'm okay at taking 48% on this one.
And that's back to overhead control too.
It's overhead, absolutely. It's how much material is in the job,
Right.
how much labor is in the job. Because at the end of the day, the salesman wants to sell the job. He
Right.
wants to service the customer and solve the customer's problem. So, which is why I think we talked about it earlier, being asleep at the wheel or abandoning ship and going off to the golf course.
That's right.
You can't make those decisions on a golf course. You've
100%.
got to be in the office and working on your margins
And
all the time.
I know what this sounds like. I'm thinking about my nephew, who is a young entrepreneur, Alan, right? And I'm thinking about him listening to this segment and calling me up going, "Hey, Uncle Todd, I have a question.
Right.
I'm confused. You said have pricing discipline, stop discounting, protect your margins. And then you just said there are times when you might actually discount for overhead control. I don't understand how that works." And this goes back to, like you said, not being asleep at the wheel. You look at your budget, you absolutely know what you need to have to cover overhead. And there are times, like you said, when you go, I'm still going to make some profitability on this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a great deal of overhead with these gross dollars. So I'm
Right.
going to take the job.
You're also not allowing your competition to grow.
Mm.
So you're eliminating a competitor from doing the job, but you can't get. I'm super competitive myself. Like, it's just the way I'm built. And, there's times I was tempted to take jobs just so the competition wouldn't get them. But you have to have the discipline to say, it's not in our best interest to do this work, or absolutely we'll do the job.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to go to the next thing here, which is install coordination. And the reason why I'm bringing up install coordination, and you guys are exceptionally good at it. You're exceptionally good at it in Houston. You're exceptionally good at it in Austin. You have the largest portion of both of your facilities that are dedicated to material control and setting up jobs for installation. Because this is where so much profitability can get bled off. If you don't set up your packets well in the beginning, there's materials that are absolutely missing, and you got to stop your install and take 2 or 3 hours to go get equipment, or just it shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
It can be such a massive bottleneck. So it's a very easy lever that anyone can pull, but the short version of it is, if you know that you are installing a certain water heater, a certain electric panel, a certain air conditioning system, take the time to just ask the question, what are all the things it's going to take to put this in and install, and build out packets or boxes or crates, however you want to call it. But do that in advance for your people so that they can just grab and grow, and you know that the install is going to be perfect.
Todd, and I know I'm looking at you, listener and viewer. Are you the guy that allows your installers or service techs, when they're requesting the material for a job, to just ask for whatever they want, right? There's profit going out the door.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally going to the warehouse and they're getting whatever they want for that job, and whatever they don't use stays on the truck, and either worst case scenario gets used on a side job, best case scenario maybe gets trampled on and destroyed. You have to build a material package for each install. And yes, there will be things that are, unique to that customer's home, but at least have a framework where you've got a plan, what, the 16 SEER, whatever it might be, requires. And so we at Abacus, we build install boxes that has all the necessary, we'll call them ancillary items that go with the equipment. They take that box, they check off what they use, they bring back what they don't use, we count it, we job cost it, we know what the job should cost. So again, that's hard at a $3 million business size, but you at least want to control your materials and control your installs. Fourth, service consistency, Todd. Press play. That's the process. One process, every tech. Variability equals leaks. Think about McDonald's. Think about Chick-fil-A, probably a better example.
Yes.
Every time you go in, you get served exactly the same way, and every meal is built out. And, of course, you can customize it, but there's no variability. It's exactly the same, which protects their profits and builds consistency.
Yeah. So on press play, the way that came up, going back to Dave Ramsey,
Yeah.
I was listening to him talk about entree leadership, and I went out to one of his events. And the thing that he stressed, and I walked away from it going, I've always been a Dave Ramsey fan.
Hmm.
But when he was there, he was stressing how principles, another way of saying core values, are what really drive systems, not the other way around, right? Your principles and your core values drive your systems. So I'm visiting with my friend Terry Barrett, who Terry now, he trained with us for years and years and years, and now he's one of the head trainers over at Apex, your friendly competitor.
Hmm.
Um, we're sitting out at his lake, and I'm sitting here going, Terry, what are the core principles of every service call, every sales call? And over like 3 or 4 days, we're just throwing up on the board. And that's where press play came from. And, the first principle is you got to be prepared. The second one is you got to have a great relationship with people. The third one is we got to ask the client questions about what they think their concerns are. We call it evaluate the client.
Hmm.
The third one is we know they have a set of fears. So before we go forth and do what a doctor would do and start doing tests, let's try to use some bedside manner and settle their fears, which then takes us to now let's go do our professional diagnostic. We use the catch-all system diagnostic or for sales system evaluation.
Hmm.
With that, we can come back and go, here's what your prescriptions are. And that would be where we would present all the options, overcome objections. That would be what most people think of the sale. And for us, it's like actually the sale is sort of an easy byproduct if we did all the other things right.
Correct.
Then we do labor like a professional.
Hmm.
We want to add value that they didn't see coming so that they're beyond pleased, so that your future is secured. So we go, yeah, it's 9 things, but it's not really 9 things. I mean, you don't have to memorize getting prepared.
Right.
It's actually like 4 or 5 things that we realize that in the big scheme of things, it's like 4 or 5 things that if we put it into one word, it's press play. It's principles. So simple. So that's where that came from, Alan. And part of it with your future is your memberships.
Absolutely, Todd. A big, big fan of memberships. Have been. It's interesting. At Abacus, we had memberships on day one in the plumbing arena. And I would say that is one of the major contributors to our success over the years.
Absolutely.
A really strong membership program in plumbing. Of course, we use those memberships as a way to help our revenue and our profitability when things might be slow. We call our customers and perform our inspections. But memberships is such a key piece of a service business. In fact, in my personal home, I use the company to do the TV setup, the audio visual stuff and all that. And they got my internet hooked up the way I wanted it. And they did all the, we call it the IT stuff.
Yeah.
And just last night, I got a email from them to say that they now had a membership program. It was either like $79 a month if you wanted the basic virtual support, or $179 a month, and they guaranteed a 3-day tech at your house within 3 days if you had a problem, which is not that great, right? If I have a problem, if my Wi-Fi is down or I've got some kind of problem with the TVs, I want somebody that day or the very latest the next day, right? But I thought it was really interesting that this technology company were selling memberships.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's just such a big piece of business in the home service world to have a strong membership program.
Well, the recurring revenue model has been seen in a couple different ways. At one point in time, recurring revenue model for memberships was seen as a liability because it's services you've not rendered yet.
Yeah.
Well, that was only seen that way for a short period of time until people went, oh, no, actually, this is recurring revenues. And even though it's not much recurring revenue compared to the average ticket, it brings the average ticket. So it's like, oh, clearly, memberships are where it's at. So I think the thing that what you said is that we'll be there within 3 days or whatever makes me go, whoever built that membership is more interested in the recurring revenue model than they are actually keeping you and providing you a great service.
Right.
Because if I'm going to give you money, then yeah, I better get a huge advantage. Like there better be some reason that is going to make me say, yeah, that makes sense. Like getting first access goes a long way. So, Alan, the last one here is sales discipline. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Todd. If you have two comfort advisors, they've got to be on the same page, selling the same way, because worst case scenario, you get two totally different prices for
Mm,
potentially the same work,
right,
right? So I think they've got to follow a system, and the system's got to be consistent regardless of the area of town, the type of customer. They've got to follow a sales system.
right. I agree. You know what I think is also interesting? It's like a sales system for water heaters or air conditioning systems, electrical panels, whatever. The technology side of that could be pretty complicated if you are unfamiliar with it.
Yes.
So, with new salespeople, becoming familiar with their product is really, really important. But with that being said, what's fascinating about that is that a salesperson that becomes too excited about talking about the widgets and the gadgets ends up not closing anything. We still realize that homeowners really value the soft skills greatly. And when you get into the section where you're talking about how a new air conditioning system works, yes, there are a component of people. And I remember a NASA engineer that we went on a call on in Houston with one of your guys. I remember that very, very clearly, where he wanted every single detail to the nth degree. So for him, that small 15% section of the society, have a blast.
Right.
Talk about every aspect of that heating and air conditioning system. But for the vast majority of people, what they want to know is, how are you going to treat them now? How are you going to make them feel now? How's it going to be afterwards? And when we come down and say, what are the big keys that we need to systemize? What I have found is that you can really, when it comes to replacement, say one of the most important critical things you can do is have a really robust evaluation where you're finding out what's important to them in the beginning, and then having an amazing systemized approach to design that even if you don't unpack how detailed and how complicated that design is, you can show them the results. And if they are curious, then you could.
Hmm.
For most homeowners, they walk away going, that's what I needed to know. Thank you. And some of the absolute best salespeople I've ever seen in my life, Alan, they can take a complicated thing and break it down into like three or four statements and let the homeowner pick. And you're like, okay, cool, let's move on to the next complicated thing. We don't have to talk about it a whole bunch more.
And I think you have to sell the end result, Todd.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So I think I always remember, and I tell this story all the time when I'm speaking with technicians, the very first swimming pool I ever bought. And back in those days, I got three bids, and the guy that had the winning bid came out with a piece of paper with the pool drawn on it,
There you go.
with the rocks weeping into the water. But what he sold me on was he said, I want you to visualize you sitting in that hot tub at 8 o'clock after coming home from work. Maybe you have a glass of wine. The stars are in the sky. Like, this guy was taking me on a trip, right? And he was selling me the experience and the end result. And I think when we're selling air conditioning, most customers, as you said, there are the exception, but most customers don't want to know about yeah, the, the tech piece of it. What they want to know is my house going to cool
Yep.
properly? Is the temperature in Mary's bedroom going to be the same as in John's bedroom? Is there any, is this business of one part of the house being hot and one part of the house being cold going to go away? Like, are we solving the problems and creating a home comfort system for them
That's it.
that they can live the kind of life they want to live in and stay away from allergies and dust and all the other things that come with a poorly installed system?
Well, you're
Yeah,
saying it so well. It's your future. This person's
absolutely.
making you
Yeah,
imagine your
yeah.
future. And people get hung up. They think the thing that's most important is the price. It is not. It is, are you worth it?
Well, they're making an investment in their home, Todd, not buying an air conditioning system. They are buying an air conditioning system, but it's an investment in their home and their future comfort and their health.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day what we're selling.
You've met Gordon, and Gordon and I were talking about sales. And what I had said to Gordon is, I said, you've got to get the people, every single one of your salespeople at Alliance, to when someone says, this is more, You go, yeah, I know it is.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I know it's 3,000 more than the nearest competitor. And I've got 5 reasons why I don't tell you why it is. I said, but whatever those reasons are, the underlining belief is that we are worth it. And the because is always not just bullcrap. The because is real.
Mm-hmm.
We are worth it because our installs are really so much better than everybody else's. They're going to outlast everybody by 5 or 10 years.
Right.
Because we're going to be here to take care of it. We are going to come in the middle of the night if you have a problem. Like your salespeople, when they say Alliance is the best, like they have to absolutely really breathe, eat, and feel it. Like almost get a tear in their eye. They believe it so much. You get someone to that level, it's about transference of feelings more than it is logical reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was just saying. It's like we just got to keep working on them, Gordon, until they believe it to the moon.
You've got to make it really easy to do business with your company. And I remember selling a vision to the technicians at Abacus a few years ago that we wanted to become the Amazon of the home service business, like really easy to do business with. And we deliver on time the product that you bought, the quality that you expect, and, don't let you down, right? You need us, you need to return something, we'll take it back. Whatever you need, that's what we aspire to be. So I totally get what you're saying, Todd. Goran's people have got to believe that Alliance are the best. And if they don't believe that, get off the bus. Like,
Go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else and let's have people that buy into the mission and are going to truly get behind being the best that they can be. Yeah.
I agree. So we promised you that we would give you levers, and we did. If you go back and pull those levers, you're going to have huge success. And what I would say to anyone that's listening to this going, easier said than done. Hey, reach out to us. We'll help you. Because, Alan, revenue is vanity. It's total vanity. Profit is sanity. And if you're in that $3.5 to $5 million stage, or even at another stage where you're still not making profits, my challenge for you right now is very simple. Quit bragging about your top line and start obsessing over your margin. No one cares what your top line is if you're sitting at 1% profit margin. Pull your numbers this week and ask yourself, am I building a bigger company or am I building a better company?
Absolutely. Somebody told me one time, Todd, if you have single-digit profitability, it's a hobby, not a business, right? You've got to aspire to be in the 18 to 20% range. 15%, in my mind, is the minimum for a well-run home service company. So we've shown you today where profit has to come before top-line growth, but profit only holds if you can lead through others. That's why in our next episode, Todd and I are going to show you how to delegate without losing control, because systems and accountability are what keep profit in place.
Absolutely. Alan, thank you again. It's so good to have you back in the studio, refreshed from your trip in Ireland. And guys, you're going to love this next episode. And as I said, if you're struggling and you're listening to the podcast, obviously you can find us where you can do a contact form on the website, or you can just email me. It's super simple. It's Todd@toddliles.com. I actually read those emails and I'll reach out to you and we'll show you how to get started.
Fantastic.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Tulsa Todd Liles.